9 minutes away from 7, a woman is awaiting sentencing in New Zealand after she faked a terminal illness and set up a Give a Little fundraising page, and she's not the first. It seems almost every day we're talking about a new online fundraising campaign. The family of Chiefs assistant coach Andrew Strawbridge set up a page to raise funds for a Samoan hospital. A woman started a page to help out Greece, for goodness sake, and shockingly, the sister of the Charleston shooter set up a funding site asking for donations after her wedding had to be rescheduled because of the massacre. Charity sector researcher Michael Gousmett joins me now to talk about Give a Little. Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paul.
It is, as a phenomenon, it's really taking hold in New Zealand, Give a Little, and the amount that they're receiving is doubling every year, isn't it?
Yes, well, I was quite surprised, Paul, yesterday when I had a look at the site. I hadn't seen it for some time, but I spent some time last evening having a very close look at it. And there's something like 3,415 different appeals actually on their various categories. There's about 14 different
categories. And this is just in New Zealand, is it, Michael? Just in New Zealand?
This is just New Zealand, Paul, yes. The Give It a Little website through Spark Foundation.
You know,
so something like 3,415 different appeals underway at the moment.
The thing that's concerning about this is that the umpteen surveys over the years have shown that people have an amount of money that they're prepared to give to charity or for charity purposes every year. And if you give your dollar to someone who is going to squander it, not only is that dollar wasted, but that money could have gone to a charity that was going to spend it wisely. So it's almost a double whammy when you give your money to the wrong people. Is it a concern for legitimate charities what's happening?
Well, I think it is, and the figures are quite startling. I had to go through the Spark Foundation report because I couldn't actually find, and this is another concern of mine which I'll be taking up with Spark Foundation, I couldn't actually find any information on where the $19 million or so that is given through the Give a Little page is actually accounted for. The figure's running around about 12.8, but it could be as high as up to 19 million a year. Now, that's a lot of money. And at the end of the day, I could find nothing that gave me any assurance as to how that money is being accounted for. All I could find was being held in trust somewhere. And again, this is why we have a charities regulator. This is why we brought in the Charities Act 2005, in order to regulate and monitor and improve accountability and transparency of the sector. So while this is an excellent idea that Natalie set up some years ago and is now a Spark Foundation, I do have concerns about the ability for people to set up a page to raise funds, but there's absolutely no way that you can contact that person to discuss what the fundraising might actually be applied to.
So essentially there is virtually no regulation there at all. So there's no way you can double check to make sure that your money is going to be spent wisely.
No, well, that's the impression I have. I had a look at some of the projects, and there's some very meaningful ones as well. There's no doubt about that. But the impression I was getting is that you can see that people can donate money to a particular cause, but you can't actually see the money's been applied to that cause, if you like. And this is where we have the requirement for accountability through the sector. At least we can see financial accounts for a particular charity, and we can see how the money's been used by that charity. Is there,
Michael, any concern amongst the sort of major, more well-known charities that have been around a long time? Because, as I say, the charity dollar is only so big. There's an indication the charity dollar in New Zealand is falling year by year, just slightly every year. Is there a concern from the big charities that they're missing out on money?
Paul, to be honest, I haven't spoken to anyone in the sector on that particular matter, but as a former manager of a charity, I would certainly be concerned to see these kinds of websites with that amount of money. I think you've got to put it into context too with the amount of money we're talking about say 12 million. When you look at donations to our charities, the total donated in the last set of figures, which we've got on our website through Charity Regulator, is about $1.4 billion. The top 10 charities earn over 12 million, so there's only 10 charities in New Zealand who earn more than 12 million, which is what Give a Little is actually taking out of the sector, if you like. So there's an interesting comparison there as well that we need to have a look at.
All right, Michael, thank you very much for coming on. I mean, at the end of the day, this is another example, I think, of buyer beware. Michael Gousmett, charity sector researcher.